human is.
There's a problem in the Muslim community.
And then they have to stop me and every Muslim in the entire airport?
Is it fair or is it unfair?
In general, the system is just not fair.
You got me there.
My name is Michael Sandel. I teach political philosophy at Harvard University. For me, philosophy is not just an academic subject. It doesn't just reside in the heavens beyond the world. It belongs in the city where citizens gather. Is discrimination always unjust? How should we deal with inequalities of income and wealth? Should national borders matter?
We are going to build a great border wall.
These are dangerous times for democracy. We're here in Greece at the sanctuary of Amphiarios. Not far from here, democracy was born, and so was Western philosophy. We've gathered a group of young people from around the world, and in the spirit of Socrates, we're going to engage in some lively debates about the big questions facing our societies.
You and I, we don't have the same chances when we are born.
Can we take care of everybody?
Yeah, you can, and you should.
We need to find a way to reason together about hard moral questions. And above all, we need to ask ourselves, what is the right thing to do? If the police are trying to solve a murder, should they have access to everybody's DNA? Should Uber be able to tell marketers where you went last night? Or do these practices violate your privacy? It's a big philosophical question that matters a lot to our everyday lives. Imagine that the police are investigating a murder, and they have the DNA of the perpetrator, but they have no leads on who committed the crime. There is a national hospital that has DNA samples, in fact, a DNA database. So here's our first question. Do you think the police should be able to go to the hospital and say, we would like to be able to scan your database, your DNA database, to see if we can find the perpetrator of this murder? How many say, yes, the police should be able to do that? Raise your hands. And how many say no? We have a pretty good division of opinion, even just to begin. Let's start with someone who said no. Who will give us your reason? Why do you object? Vincent.
If you do that, and that becomes you're part of the system, then people might be hesitant to go to hospital because they might be afraid that it gets somewhere or where they don't want it to be.
Anna.
I was wondering, wouldn't it be good if you ask everybody to see whether they find it okay to check their DNA? So when everyone says, yeah, sure, check it, then it's fine, just for once. And when somebody objects, well, you should be okay with that. But if there's a small group who objects, then, well, you might find that.
In other words, you have the database. It's already there. And then you say, is there anyone, you make an announcement, anyone in the public who would not like his or her DNA to be checked?
Sounds efficient.
But,
Yeah, me, because I just committed a murder.
Right, they would be singling themselves out.
Yeah,
What
that's
about
true.
that?
I was thinking about that later when I said it.
When can we get access, and what is that threshold? You talk about how that is a crime. It's like, when can we now go to this data bank to retrieve information?
But what if
I think
the guy,
that's a dangerous precedent to
What
set.
if the guy comes from a different city? Are you gonna like check the whole country?
Why not? Or why not have a single uniform database, DNA database from all the hospitals in the country? Make the job easier. Would you be in favor of that?
No, because
Why not?
just
Why
like
not?
you said, because some people might think, like, I don't know what's going to happen to that database, so I'm not going to go to the hospital anymore because they'll take my DNA, and who knows what they're going to use it for next time, because if you open the door, you don't know what's going to happen next.
And where are the boundaries? I mean, now it's a murder. Next time it's a criminal act. I mean, we should set some boundaries when it comes to actually privacy data. And if you go to a hospital to check your blood, you're checking your blood. That's your main goal. It's not what if the police officer is going to catch the murderer. They may use my blood. That's not the purpose of checking your blood.
So a number of you are worried about the slippery slope.
The more abstract question is when you give information for one purpose, so you give blood in order for your doctor to solve your diagnosis, then it's not for the purpose of solving crimes. And if you haven't created transparency about the use of the data, then the definition of privacy, where you say that you offer information and you choose to give it selectively, that question is not raised. So the abstract question is, if the purpose of the information for which it was given is changed, should you ask the person who has the information?
But besides that, what if the system is hacked? And we get all the information of everybody's DNA. Then we can plant murderers all over the city, all over the world. So that's why.
But how can you quantify that you have more of a right to keep your DNA private than the family of the murder victim has to not finding justice?
Because it's mine. It's not a crime not to give my DNA to another person.
But it's their son who just died.
But does it necessarily make it? It's not a crime. You can do what you want. But is it the right thing to do?
But should he suffer because someone's son or daughter died?
I think it's a lot more indirect a kind of suffering than the grief that the family will be.
Okay, now we were talking about emotions.
But should everybody suffer for that person?
For that person. I mean, why, if that's something private to him, because it's literally something of his own body, more private than that, it can't get more private than that.
So is your hair. If you have hair or semen or anything that's left at a crime scene, you know, or a fingerprint.
True, you can use that.
Yeah, exactly.
But you cannot use something without asking that person, may I use this? You cannot do that. I think you cannot do that.
But if as a society we choose that it's okay to link certain amounts of information and we let people vote about linking those kinds of databases together in order to use them to solve problems in society, then it's allowed. Once you ask it and you obtain informed consent, or the law says we opt out, so if you don't object, we will use it, then it's a different question.
All right, now, Emma, you've raised the question of consent. Let's meet that objection by imagining that there is proposed a law that requires everyone to submit to DNA testing for a national DNA bank to be used for law enforcement purposes. This removes the worry that it was collected for medical reasons and now it's being used for a different reason. Make it explicit. Would you be in favor of such a law? Let's see by a show of hands. How many would favor such a law? And how many would be against?
But wouldn't you be giving up your freedom by making a database where everybody gives up his DNA? I mean,
why would that be giving up freedom? Explain.
Because you'll be living in fear all the time by making a mistake, or what if you cut yourself and you're at the wrong time at the wrong place and they find a DNA sample of you, and the police come and pick you up and you haven't done anything. I mean, you're always, I think I'll always be living in fear that something like this might happen and the police will just know immediately who you are.
You would live in fear that law enforcement would be too easy and maybe unjust.
Maybe, yeah.
That would also
Go ahead.
I guess my hope here is that you would put trust that there are checks and balances. So if everyone does have their DNA in this database, which I voted in favor for, they have the DNA of the suspect, you find them, then ultimately maybe there's a trial, maybe there are a couple other checks.
It must be like a permit or a warrant issued or something.
So if there were safeguards, you would be willing to do it.
Even if we assume that we trust the police, which is often not the case, but even if we assume we trust the police fully, is this the way in which we want the police to act and to work in our society?
To protect my safety, yes.
Tiffany says yes. Why not? To protect.
I think.
What about that?
I think DNA is actually one of the better solutions that police can use because it is more scientific. It's already exonerated hundreds of prisoners in the U.S. who were innocent and were charged and found guilty primarily because they were in an ethnic group or a different race. And when you have something as verifiable as DNA that can't really be, you can't fudge it, you know, you can't fake DNA evidence at the same...
But you can...
And who put these guys in jail in the first place?
Yeah.
Right, the police
exactly,
did.
And you want us to trust these guys?
It's interesting listening to this discussion. A lot of the objections to the DNA database have to do with skepticism about law enforcement, or what some people feel is the lack of true consent, informed consent, or even with the vote, some people who voted against the law might feel coerced, that they hadn't consented. But is that all privacy is about?
I think that if you say, okay, we can use DNA information to investigate a murder or a crime, then where are we going to draw that threshold, right? Are we now rating how bad a crime is to be able to justify using DNA as a means to get it? And how is that different from, you know, someone stealing a candy bar from a candy store? That's the slippery slope that I'm afraid of.
I think access to data provides a lot more information to make a better world for all of us. And my view is that I trust, and I mentioned this during the lecture, I trust the system. I trust that the system is there to take care of me.
There are certain agencies or states that might want to use information for nefarious means and for the wrong reasons, but personally my convictions are that for the most part agencies are not out to do that. So that's why I think that I don't have that fear. For me, sometimes it feels a little bit irrational that people have that concern. Of course, I think it's wise to be conscious that it can happen, but for me personally, I don't have that reservation.
I want to take a case that has not to do with law enforcement and its potential abuses. Many health insurance companies now offer people who want health insurance the following deal. We will give you a wearable device that measures whether you behave in a healthy way. It measures how much exercise you get every day, how many hours you sleep, whether you drink much alcohol, whether you exercise and go to the gym. And if you agree to wear this device and to have the data sent to us, then, if you engage in healthy behavior, if all goes well, we will offer you a big discount. How many would go for the deal? And how many would not? How many would turn it down? The majority here, it looks like, would turn it down. Why would you turn it down? You can get a discount.
Yeah, this year discount, next year no insurance.
Why?
If you are unhealthy.
Ah, well, so that's because you don't go to the gym and you don't eat healthy.
Perhaps I drink a lot, I don't go to the gym, and perhaps I'm not that active and I don't have any good energy, and I'm not very healthy as they thought.
How much influence do you have on the way that you live, on how healthy it is? If you're born in a family that has no money and you can only get access to a certain kind of food, and then you're going to get beaten down again by not getting a discount.
So it's unfair.
Yeah.
What will they do with the data?
What they will do with the data is decide whether you are a good health risk or not.
You as a person in a million, or you as Hajar al-Riyashi?
You as Hajar.
Yeah, no way.
They want to know if Hajar eats broccoli and exercises and goes to the gym.
Too much information for a company that is very lucrative.
knows that.
But that could be information we're providing to our doctors anyway.
Wait.
I'm sorry?
That could be information we're providing to our doctors anyway.
True. But I would not participate
But your doctor's not going to tell you, okay, you're not getting a health insurance. You know, that's different.
I know, but everyone's talking about these like doom and gloom scenarios.
Yeah, but perhaps it will be like that. This is the first step.
When you're doing extreme sports, you pay a higher insurance.
True.
The risk is higher, you pay a higher premium. That's how it works.
Yes.
It's the same with this. It's perfectly fair, in my opinion, is that your risk of getting a disease and thus that there has to be money allocated towards you as a patient.
But you're presupposing that at the outset everybody has the same set of chances in life and has the same starting point. You don't. So this will only benefit people who are already raised in a healthy way and live a healthy life.
Every single person, I guess, in the world understands that exercise is good and that eating cheeseburgers isn't.
I don't think Donald Trump does that.
You can think. Well, if you no, I don't.
Well,
I think
okay.
you should be able to say that's a very perfectly simple thing that they're teaching in school as well.
No, do you know what the diets in most schools are like?
In Holland?
Education. So if you want to change this problem, you should start educating people on how to eat instead of healthy people getting a discount.
Sure, that's I guess part of the solution.
What I'm interested in hearing is whether there is a privacy objection, an objection in the name of privacy as such.
Yeah, it would be a violation to my privacy. They're
Why?
harvesting data on my whereabouts, what I eat, how I move.
Yes.
I have secrets that are mine and that I'd like to keep mine and that are nobody's business. Also,
Like what?
Well, you almost fooled me there.
No. But remember, this is a voluntary plan. No one is forcing you.
But
it's
then-
not like the other case where there's a law saying you
I get that, Michael, but then the problem is they are collecting the data and they cannot guarantee its safety. You have seen with email hacks of political people, with servers, healthcare servers in the UK, you cannot guarantee the safety of the
But
information
it's
you're gathering.
voluntary. That's like you saying you can't have a naked photo on your phone.
Can I ask you a question? Do you have a smartphone?
No, but that's not
Do
the
you
question
use
there.
Google?
No, I mean, and I also eat fast food every once in a while. I'm not saying I'm a perfect person.
No. Are you aware of the fact that what we are describing is actually happening now? That Google knows all these things practically.
So I try and use DuckDuckGo. I mean, I try and work my way around it. It's a search engine nobody knows, so that's why I get the bad
I know
guy.
it.
But the point is, from a privacy point of view, that's why I would never voluntarily participate, because you're giving away all this information about your life that it cannot be guaranteed.
We're creating a sort of prison.
A prison?
A prison. We're creating a prison because if I get that discount and you tell me what the rules are, if I don't follow those rules, you're going to tell me if you want this discount, then you got to eat this, you got to do that.
Yeah.
And
broccoli.
Yeah,
you got to eat the broccoli.
In a certain way, we're going to end up in a prison.
I'm still trying to understand what privacy is. You are saying that it involves divulging, that everyone has secrets, that you don't want to give up. Do your secrets include whether you live healthy or not, though?
Of course.
Why? Why is that? Why should that be private?
Let's say everybody has secrets, quote-unquote secrets.
Right.
Let's say you're the chief of the fire department in New York. Some people find out that you actually have right-wing views. Then you can't actually, in my mind, then perform your job well, because as a fire person, you should not be discriminatory in any way, and you should be, you're prone to, if something bad happens in a certain place and the fire department doesn't do, there's something wrong there, people can say, well, that was not accidentally, they did it because they didn't like that neighborhood or whatever. Like, there's just parts of your life that you don't want to interfere with other parts of your life. I'm sure I could have phrased this much better.
No. I think I get it. It's interesting. There does seem to be a connection between privacy and secrets or secrecy.
Yeah, but also you don't know what in the end is going to be incriminating. If you eat meat now, what if in 10 years it's illegal and you can...
You'd be embarrassed.
Yeah. And they would I don't know who they are, but like...
The system.
The system would have something on you.
All right, well now we've gone from privacy to secrecy and embarrassment.
Het gaat mij veel meer vanuit angst. Wat kan er allemaal gebeuren met die data? En ik denk dat dat nu aan de hand is. Ik weet incidenten uit van vrienden van mij in Amerika die door de politie bezocht werden om iets te onderzoeken. En dat hij zei, als jullie mijn e-mails willen bekijken, dan kan dat gewoon. En dat ze zeiden, die hebben we allemaal al lang gelezen. Dus ik denk dat daar zit voor mij de angst.
I think Philip definitely has a point in the sense of wanting to protect the things that he considers secrets and, the fact that all of this information and data can be abused. I'd like to see the silver lining or the positive side of that and think that, these systems are in place to protect us.
Private information can be shared and held by companies and the government, but it really should never be used in a judgmental way. And that would be like my constitutional amendment regarding privacy.
Wat ik enorm opmerk is dat er continu negatieve, positieve opmerkingen worden gemaakt. Dus stel dat jij iets niet wilt delen met de wereld, dan is dat vast iets negatiefs, iets wat secret is, hè? Wat je voor jezelf mag houden. Niemand mag het weten, want misschien is het strafbaar, et cetera. Terwijl dat niet zo is. Soms heb je gewoon bepaalde zaken die je echt niet wilt delen met een ander. Zoals mijn uiterlijk. Ik wil mijn lichaam niet delen met een ander, mijn blote lichaam.
What should we be embarrassed about? What should we consider to be secret or private information? Uber knows where you are most of the time, certainly when you're using their service, and maybe not only then. Now, when Uber offers service in a new city, it has a launch party, a kind of celebration, and they invite a bunch of people. And they did this a while back when they began service in Chicago. And as part of the entertainment for the guests, they showed a giant video screen at the front of the room that showed, anonymized, the center of Manhattan. And it showed every Uber ride that at that moment was being taken in Manhattan and where the people were going. They called that the God's eye view of Uber. Then, to make it more interesting, they de-anonymized 30 of the rides being taken at that moment, which were being taken by recognizable public figures. And they showed the guests where those 30 people were riding at that moment. They called that not the God's eye view, but the stalker view. Now, one of the guests at the party recognized someone she knew and sent him a text saying, I see you're on your way to 37th Street and 5th Avenue. And the person was shocked and learned about his travels being divulged and was outraged by it. Do you think, well, let's take first the God's eye view, the anonymized map of the Uber riders. Is that a violation of anybody's privacy? Yes? No? Anybody think so? A couple of people do think that's a violation. What about the so-called stalker view? Is that a violation of the privacy of the riders?
No.
No. Tiffany says no.
Because when you decide to take that app, they have access to your information.
Right.
And if you are a recognizable person, you have to understand that there are certain parts of your life that will become public.
And so you made the choice to use the app?
So they by consenting to use this app, they can use the information however they'd like.
But does that give them the right to show everybody where you are at that moment, not even knowing?
But you made the choice to use that app.
Yes, but not showing everybody once they're given a big presentation. Because what if the guy was cheating on his wife? What if he was telling her like, I'm at work and he was just
right, so we're going back
to
to all these doom and gloom scenarios again.
Philip, what do you say to Tiffany?
Well, she said in every way they like, which makes me think they can run an algorithm like your movements with an Uber, infer information, and then extort you. Just say, so you don't want your family to know you visit the Russian saunas on Thursdays between 4 and 6? That's $100 a month extra. You said they can use that information every way they
Uber
like.
also has the right to do surge pricing or whatever they'd like as well.
I mean, but that's the product. Like you're using a car to get from A to B.
Yes.
By showing your movements on a screen in front of 300 people, that's not part of the product you are buying.
Let's say it is in big, bold print. If the consent were clear and informed and fully disclosed, then would there be anything wrong with their...
No, because then you were fully aware of what you were consenting to.
No, you're not.
Yes.
You think you are. People think they are, but the collection of data Uber can harvest is so huge and they can't protect it. So you are putting so much information out there. You'd be...
Now you're taking me back to my doom and gloom hackers.
Okay, all right.
I have an idea on this. You can't really live life without consenting to things. Imagine saying, I don't agree to using a smartphone that tracks me, so I'm just going to live my life without a smartphone. Like, imagine trying to live your life without having access to that for the rest of your life. Like, there's no companies that are going to create the service for you to live your life where you don't consent to things. And this is the problem, because if every single company uses the same idea that you have, where they can just do whatever they want with your private data, like, at what point can you just live your life normally? Like, there would be no services that you could consent to.
Yeah, but that's a choice
why
that you make.
Why can't you just have clear laws against these bad compromising things happen where these companies abused information? Why can't you just have laws against extortion? Don't we already have that? Like, can't we deal with it that way? And, you know, it is a consent, so why should I be stopped from taking a risk that I want to take? I should be free to choose. And why don't we already have laws for taking care of the bad scenarios that can happen? So those companies can be prosecuted as well.
Are you free to
They
choose?
still do happen, and I want to choose. Maybe it will happen, but let me have the service, you know? Like, who are you to tell me that? Like, let me choose. And let's have laws that can help mediate these situations where companies don't have, you know, all the power to extort us.
We're here debating, we're trying to get at whether there is some intrinsic value associated with privacy. And people are talking about how true is the consent when you sign on the dotted line or download the Uber. So we do have, it seems, almost a built-in impulse to decide privacy questions by asking, is the consent genuine? Is it truly informed? The implication of that question is, if there is truly informed consent, and people disagree about when we have it, but if there is consent, then there is no further objection to any violation of privacy. Now, Philip has said, yeah, there is secrets. There are certain secrets. Now, is it a legitimate secret where I'm riding in Manhattan? Is that a legitimate thing for me to keep private?
I don't want to be super diplomatic. Depends on who you are, where you're going, what the ride is for.
An ordinary person, let's say.
I wouldn't say for an ordinary person.
For you. For you.
I think, so the way I see privacy, it starts with everything that is unshareable, or to me, in my mind, my thoughts, my contemplations, my movements. And I would even say that sometimes just my rides, that where I've been and where I'm going, if they're stored in a place, are movements that I would want to keep just to me.
Let me read you an answer that Eric Schmidt, then the CEO of Google, gave when he was asked about this question of privacy. If you have something you don't want anyone to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place.
Yes. So true. So true.
Tiffany agrees.
Yes.
No.
Why is he wrong?
Well, let's say Eric Schmidt wants to buy a company, all right? And the company now knows that every Tuesday he likes to dress up in a hippo suit and run around the zoo. His sort of tough CEO look is compromised because of that.
Then maybe he shouldn't do that.
And it makes him relatable.
No,
What if he likes that?
But if he likes it, no.
That's great. That's
sorry.
part of who he is. He should
But
share
people
that.
don't own their shit nowadays.
And now we are. Because
You are.
everything is out. Yes.
Maybe a nice example is I do a news show on TV and I have to be neutral. And I have to comment on everything that happens. And I'm a member of a political party. And I don't want the public to know which one that is, because it will hurt my believability as a TV host. So that is, I'm doing nothing wrong. There's nothing that I'm ashamed of.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is a counterexample to Eric Schmidt.
I think there's another, maybe more personal argument, because the comments of Eric Schmidt is really the comments of a privileged, heterosexual, white male. Because if you look at... if you're gay in Morocco and you go date your boyfriend, that's not something you want out there. And I cannot understand that Eric would tell the person, oh, then you shouldn't be gay anymore. If you're in France and you're trying to rent an apartment and your name is Mohammed, you're going to call and give a fake name, because otherwise you're never going to get that flat visit. So there are a lot of social situations where you are presenting a different face than the one you really are. And I think putting putting the blame on the person doing that is
too easy.
Is very easy.
It basically divides. He divides basically the world into good people and bad people, and there's nothing in between. I love, for instance, kitten videos. I don't want anyone to know.
I could tell.
Now we all know.
But there you go.
Kitten videos?
But I think of myself as a good person. Still.
And you watch kitten
That
videos?
doesn't make you a bad person, though.
That makes me a bad person.
No, it doesn't. I like kitten videos
Well,
too.
still, but it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as good things and bad things.
Isn't it part of becoming a happy person to discover your crazy side and to discover things that you just don't want everyone to know? And I think it's just bad for society if everybody feels like everybody's always looking. It will just not make you happy. And I think
But wouldn't
the
it make you
larger
happy to
group of
just
people-
be yourself as you are and just
Yeah, but
present
who knows who
whoever
he
that
is? I mean, I'm still searching, like everyone is. I think, like,
I
and
totally
when I'm
agree.
60, yeah, when I'm 60, I'll still be discovering. So I think it's a good thing if you have the freedom and you feel free enough to discover yourself and to be able to do something that you might not be proud of later.
After the professor had presented the Eric Schmidt quote, I felt like I was in full agreement. And Hisham brought up the point that a lot of what's rooted in that quote is based on privilege. And that was something that when I had first heard the quote, I hadn't really thought about before. And it made me realize there's a lot more embedded within these blanket statements, and whether or not privacy is good or bad, there is this gray area that we also have to take into consideration.
Ik had een Palestijnse vriendinnetje en die woonde in Ramallah. En zij zei echt van, je mag me echt nooit bellen, want dat wordt allemaal afgetapt. En dat wist ik helemaal niet. Dat ik helemaal geen behoefte... Ja, ik had er helemaal geen benul van. Dus ja, daar is het al veel meer. Maar ik heb niks te verbergen. Dus persoonlijk vond ik het niet heel erg. Ik dacht dus van, ja, nou ja, ik ben innocent. Dus je mag van mij alles weten. Dat dacht ik altijd. Ik heb nooit nagedacht dat het ook negatief kan zijn.
Ja, privacy verandert ook heel snel. En de toepassing ervan. Vaak we staan er ook eigenlijk niet meer bij stil. Dus we lezen de terms and conditions van diensten lezen we niet meer. We gaan er gewoon mee akkoord, want we willen iets hebben. En dat, ja, dan gaat het maar ten koste van iets. En maakt mij het uit wat dat is. En je ziet het met steeds meer diensten, met steeds meer toepassingen. Gaat dat misschien steeds wel verder in op je persoonlijke levenssfeer. Zonder dat we het doorhebben. En dat is wel heel goed om bij stil te staan. Dus daarom denk ik dat zo'n discussie daarover ontzettend belangrijk is. Om daar in ieder geval de kaders van wat is moreel toelaatbaar en wat niet. Om die is te bekijken van waar die liggen.
We've been talking about Eric Schmidt and Google. Now, I didn't notice for a long time that when I would search for something online or even email about something, I would start getting all kinds of ads for those things on my site. Does that bother you?
So much.
It does? Why does it bother you? Well, describe how you've experienced and why does it bother you?
Like currently, all I'm seeing is strapless bra advertisement. I'm like, honestly not interested. But I think from the moment when it came up once, and I probably just like actually had a look at the video for 2 seconds.
Just a short look.
Short enough that they were like, ooh, she's looking. After that, it's just constant.
But most of the time, we are Googling something that we need. And they're suggesting, hey,
do you want another one? No, I just bought one, thank you. But another laptop.
Perhaps you're still deciding. Perhaps you're still deciding. I don't know. About the privacy aspect, I'm very, I don't like to share everything.
Right.
And I'm very, I'm trying to figure out whether this is bad.
Yeah.
Whether when they're suggesting something,
right,
or when you didn't make a decision yet to buy something, when they offer you something,
right,
whether that's bad.
Yeah.
Is it really bad? I'm like very angry when they do that. No.
I think that one's a bit more ambiguous though, because it doesn't feel like a judgment on you. It's like, oh, I looked for something and you're... I think if there was no judgment, then
so
we would be
okay
with unlimited no privacy.
You're getting ads for things that maybe you'll be interested in. Yeah. Why is that a violation of your privacy?
Because they're making a lot of money out of data they're getting from us, and we're not getting anything in return.
The free service.
Yeah, free service. No, yes. we're getting the advertising that you.
Wait.
It's a trade-off.
Danny, how much do you pay for your Gmail account?
I don't pay for that. But they are
Exactly.
making it's not about me paying. It's about them making
get
a
it
lot
for
of money.
free.
Yeah, but
So
they're
you get-
making
in a-
much
in a
more
lot
money.
of- Danny, it's a lot of people expect just to get it for free. That's really within our society nowadays. I want everything. I want Gmail for free. I want Google for free. I want Facebook for free. The entire business model to actually have these sites working and online and paying for the servers and the people working there is that you see ads. In a lot of services, they also offer you to pay for the service, and then you don't get the ads. So again, it's a trade-off. So you can choose yourself.
Sometimes you're not even looking to buy something. You're just Googling because you're looking for something else. So it's like you're saying, I need I don't know, citrus press something. When you're in bed, it's not like you're on the market. Sometimes you're not looking for something to buy something. You're just looking for something. So they're pressing it upon
But
you.
you still watch TV with adverts, surely, and you're not looking to. It's this the trade-off. You go, oh, well, watch the.
Yeah, but in this case, it's personalized because it's something that you already put in Google.
Does that make it better or worse?
Worse.
Why? Why is that? You say it's annoying, Caroline. Why is it a violation of your privacy, though?
Because, well, on a deeper scale,
Yeah.
it's because they keep track of what I look for, and I know I'm aware of that, like that I can choose to use Google or not, but still, I can think something of the fact that they know that.
All right, we have more of a mixed set of opinions on the personalized advertisements on Google. And it's not clear that we've actually worked out, those who object, whether that's a violation of privacy or whether it's just annoying. Now, people worry, and have worried throughout this discussion, about the unauthorized release of highly personal data. And people are skeptical that these companies or these data banks really will protect the data and limit its use. Is one other way of testing the meaning of privacy and why it matters. Consider the following instances of your data being collected. Case one, Netflix knows what movies you've watched and what movies you've liked. The public library knows what books you've checked out. And we have the case of Uber, which knows where you go and where you've been. If your data were released, which would represent the deepest, most troubling violation of your privacy? The movies you watch, the books you read, or the places you go?
Is it only movies on Netflix or all movies?
We'll imagine all movies. Which of those do you consider the most personal, the most important privacy case? How many would say the movies you watch? Alfie.
Yeah. Come on.
How many would say the books you read? How many would say where you go and where you've been? So the Uber case, far more people are worried about that than about any one of these other cases. It's interesting because traditionally, it's been the reading of books that's what's interested tyrant censorship. Do we care now more about where we ride in a car than what books we read? Tyrants don't care about that, do they?
Do you think it has something to do with the sort of way modern dystopias are painted by authors like Huxley and Orwell, or do they? Because they were always much more concerned in their kind of painting of everything. It was much to do with where you were and them going away off the beaten track, and people keeping track of people and always being watched.
But in Huxley's day, there wasn't Google, there wasn't Uber, and so we worried more about the state than companies and data banks being the source of tyranny. Is that the difference? Is that why we now seem to worry more about Google and Uber as posing threats to our privacy than we do even about the state?
The role of the state is very similar to the role of modern corporations, and the way in which modern corporations are so sort of pervasive in a kind of global sense. Like, nations are still nation states, but companies can be global. And therefore, with kind of companies being globalized in that sense, that's what we're most afraid of, because they're the ones that are keeping track of us, in a sense.
Concentrated power, whether in the state or in companies. What do you say?
Not worried about, okay, they're checking my travel. They're like, oh, I'm dropping my kid off at the school every time, so they're gonna raise that price for me because I will go for it. I'm more worried about if someone finds out that I'm leaving my kid 5 minutes before the school every time, is my kid gonna be safe?
Right.
And the same way I'm not using check-ins, or at least never use check-ins when I'm at the spot.
Right.
Because no one really needs to know that, hey, I'm alone in a bar. I don't want to put myself in risk at all.
Right.
And that's why I think place is very important.
What does privacy most need to protect us from? Is it from an overbearing state that surveys everything we do, or is it from companies and marketers and social media that gather all this data about us?
It's so hard for us to define the value of privacy, and we expect everyone to be able to choose whether their privacy is worth enough to sell it for money or for their safety or for whatever. So if we, with like a big group of smart people, cannot define the value of privacy, like how hard is it for anyone in the world to define that value and be able to sell it and make choices about it? Like, I think that's just dangerous.
Yeah, you're right, Anna, that as we've seen in this discussion, it's not so easy to explain what privacy is and why it matters.
So today, I think one of the concerns that was brought up that resonated with me was the concern about how is our information being stored, what is it being utilized for. So we might give information to Uber or Google, and it might seem harmless, but we don't really know what they're then doing with that information. And I think it's something that when you think about it, yes, it's very obvious, but it's not something I personally gave much thought to. So it was good to hear that today.
Wat voor mij de wezenlijke privacy-discussie was, waar we vandaag ook bij uitkwamen, is niet zozeer Uber volgt mijn bewegingen. Het is duidelijk welke films ik kijk en het is duidelijk welke boeken ik lees en waar ik ben. Maar vooral als je al die dingen bij elkaar husselt, wat dus nu kan, omdat alles data is. Dus je kan gewoon een heel dataprofiel van iemand opstellen. En dan weet je eigenlijk precies wie iemand is. En ik vind het heel naïef om te veronderstellen dat daar niet of vanuit de markt of vanuit een hack veel mee gedaan kan worden, waar je slechter uitkomt dan hoe je erin gaat.
My views are really rooted in my own experience. I have a disability from a car accident when I was younger. And for the 10 plus years after the car accident, I didn't really share my story of what had happened to me. There was so much shame, embarrassment, secrecy. I felt like it was my big secret. And once I started sharing that story, I started to realize through that vulnerability of being so open about who I was and my story, people connected with that and they resonated with it. And it felt so freeing to me to be able to present to the world what I saw as the authentic version of myself.
If we think back to Socrates in ancient Athens, it's striking. They didn't argue all that much about privacy. They did distinguish between the public realm and the private realm. But when the Greek philosophers drew that distinction, that was to celebrate the public realm, the democratic assembly. In fact, those who lived only in the private realm, they called idiotus, which is the root of idiots, people who lived only private lives. They were being deprived of something important, participation as citizens in the life of the city. So for them, privacy was a pejorative. For us, as we've seen, it's an important value whose meaning we wrestle with and debate. I think part of the reason it's difficult to explain what privacy is and why it matters is that it seems almost to be a remedial virtue. We all aspire to seek a just society or a free society or a democratic society, but nobody says what I'm really seeking is a private society. Privacy arises as a value in response to threats, the threat of an overbearing or a tyrannical state that would exercise surveillance and try to root out dissent, or the threat from the constant gaze of marketers and social media companies that want to sell us stuff. And so it's in an age of DNA and big data, it's important for us as democratic citizens to have a continuing public debate about the meaning of privacy and about the values privacy protects. If you'd like to continue the discussion, please join us online at therightthingtodo.nl and tell us what you think. Thank you all very much. Well done. Great job.